Hi, my name is Dr. Carla Gull. I am the state coordinator for Indiana Children in Nature Network. We're back again with Getting Outside with Tweens and Teens Part 3. We talked to Joe Pounds and kind of looking at where adolescents are right now, what's happening in their lives. And session 2, and then part 1, we looked at 2 specific programs with Indiana Master Naturalists, the junior and the teen program with that, and then also the STEM project as well, and some of the programs that they have with that, and just watching progression with children throughout the years. Today, we're going to kind of look at some other aspects, some challenges and opportunities, and then some resources within the state of Indiana to help connect our children's particular needs with some programs and resources that are already there. So once again, Indiana Children Nature Network, part of Environmental Educators Association of Indiana. And we really are trying to focus on building state-specific resources, things that help us right here. Nature Play Days, this is updated for 2023 already, June 2nd through 12th. We hope you'll enjoy and getting outside, perhaps even host some nature play days. We have some webinars on that on the website, and or consider taking a pledge to play outside at least 3 minutes a day. And that can be any of us, including us as adults. I know I can do more on that as well. As far as the mission of ICAN, we're really here to kind of foster that connection of children, families, educators, communities to the environment, looking at the benefits with that. We do that by raising awareness, promoting unstructured play and time outdoors, and then engaging a diverse network of people. And there are so many people doing great things in the state of Indiana. We want to highlight and show some of those things that are going on. As far as why we might get outside with tweens and teens, I find that when we're outside, we're usually spending less screen time. Also, it's a time to be physically active. I know I like hiking. I see other teenagers, they have more space to move, and oftentimes are moving in that space that's there. Mental health benefits are with that. There's often decreased stress. I also just notice that experience of the awe and wonder, and just a quick experience at the football game. We'll talk about that social aspect of being a teenager and how that's a strong draw right now. But just at the football game recently, and all of a sudden the harvest moon starts coming up out of the trees, and you could hear this like awe and sense of wonder through the stands. I was sitting near the student section, which was kind of loud sometimes, but and hearing the tweens behind me and such talking about this harvest moon and how beautiful it was up in the sky and such. And so witnessing and being part of the natural phenomenon that's happening around us all the time can happen in places just such as the football game. Also, just that healing power of nature, it can really be a way to rebalance and find that connection that we need in our lives. And then we're more likely to want to continue building that when we get that good dopamine fix, as Joe Pounds had mentioned to us early. Or we can also be doing some skill building in the outside, whether it's building fires or just understanding how to get food and grow food and all those kinds of things, as well as career exploration as well. There are some challenges, but at the same time, those can be opportunities. One of those things is just typically in general in life, we do have more reliance on technology ourselves as adults sometimes too. And excuse me. So more reliance on technology, but that can also be an opportunity. I was volunteering with a field trip yesterday, taking all of the 8th graders at a school out to do some Hoosier River Watch river monitoring, understanding how that is working, as well as some service projects, a nature walk and such. And they were using tools. They were being scientists. They were doing science by being scientists, by collecting citizen scientist information. And we'll share some more opportunities around citizen scientists real soon. And then also just seeking more independence. And with that, I was able to use my phone just to help identify some of the plants that were right around where we were as well. There's an app called Seek by iNaturalist that is great at helping with that. And yeah, so Teenagers are also seeking more independence. Little by little, that's expanding, like we can see at the bottom, and they are trying to develop their own identity, make their own choices as part of that. Oftentimes they are more influenced by peers. So having social aspects as part of the things that we're doing outside can be very powerful. And we'll share some examples of that in this next slide. As far as me putting on my mom hat, these are some tips that I have for getting outside. I have found that my tweens and teens are looking for increased adventure. So this is from a trip when we went out west, and we found some of the Bureau of Land Management spaces that were more climbing friendly. And so they were able to go and climb in different ways that they would not necessarily be able to in an indoor space. Also, just like bringing along friends in general. So I've signed up for programs, and I said, well, what if we bring this child, and able to coordinate with friends, parents, to be able to take them along on short excursions, programs, and even sending them to camp together. One child was able to go to Hocking Hills with a group of teens, and he signed up with a friend, and that made it better. And I have sent children on adventure camps out west when they weren't alone, but the social draw of being with other teens in an outdoor setting was very strong, and they developed some great friendships with that as well. Also, as they seek more autonomy, they are building skills. They can plan things, and I know that with Scouts recently, one of my sons, they were planning their food and some of those things for our camp out. They planned to get there early to go and catch their fish and then cook their fish. They made some mistakes along the way, and they were able to learn from it. Like they forgot oil and some seasonings for their fish, but they can go back and revise that and plan again the next time they go out. But including them in that plan gives them more empowerment and choice in what they're doing. I do find that involving food is always powerful. Having a campfire with stuff for s'mores or pudgy pies or whatever it is that you might cook outside. I've even done Brussels sprouts, but that's probably more for me. It would depend on the teen that wants to do that as well. And giving them some freedom to explore what they cook over the fire can be powerful as well. I've noticed that. Family traditions, and our family, we do try to go on some family vacations that include some outdoor time. We've had great memories and trips to national parks, state parks, and just taking a hike outdoors. We try to start every year for the last, I don't know, maybe 8 years or so, since we've known it's been a thing. We were some of the earlier adopters of having a first day hike. So the first day of the year, January 1st, we go on a hike. We used to always go with the groups at the state parks, and they were smaller at the beginning, but now we find that they are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so sometimes we go off on our own hikes by ourselves or with another family with teens. But it's a tradition now that we can continue to build on over the years. Also follow their interests. What are they interested in? How can we allow and give opportunities for what they are interested in, whether it's music or art or a combination of many different things. There are many ways to connect in the outdoors, and it could even, be sports. I know one of my children likes to play pickleball, and so he'll organize people to go and do that. Connect with groups that are doing those interests. So for pretty much any interest that there could be out there, whether someone likes to cook, there are Eat Wild groups to help people connect with foraging and cooking and such. There are other ones that are interested in bird watching and ornithology, and we'll share some of those groups that are out there and available and doing things to encourage people to get outside with those special interests with that. Also include technology. I shared one example, but there are lots of different apps and such. And maybe we need to have a webinar episode just on different apps that we can use to connect to the outdoors. One that I really like is Merlin Bird ID. My tweens and teens have it on their devices, and they they have used it many times with me, and I see them looking up birds when we're doing other things. Oh, another family tradition that we do is join our local, let's see, bird count. Locally in our county, they are Elkhart County Parks. They have a bird kind of challenge, I guess you could say, from March to May. And we sign up as a family, even though the teens sometimes say they don't want to do it. We're a team all together. And while they may complain about it sometimes, they're still looking for birds. You're like, oh, hey, there's one. And we're kind of more casual about it where we are now with children. But yeah, lots of ways to do that. And then using technology to record and understand where the birds are and all of those kinds of things. Find ways to serve. There are ways to serve with animals and be interns at zoos, docents, or even go to local dog rescue or cat rescue and be able to share in some of those things, or to do some improvement projects. One of my children, as part of Scouts, he built a gaga ball pit at a local park, and finding ways to connect people in his community with something that he likes to do outside. It's right by a tree, and so they get that added benefit of being outside at the same time. And then also just kind of consider safety. I don't want to put too much emphasis on this, but it's just something to be aware of and recognize that as tweens and teens are learning to negotiate risk more, that is helping build their safety skills as well. So some minor tips kind of with that, we always have the first aid kit and know what to do in case of emergencies. And even within the walls of my own home, not even anywhere outside, I do research on tree climbing and such. One of my children had an accident at home, and I was grateful that I knew what to look for. I was using tools like my technology to understand like what a concussion would be and know to get my child to the emergency room where there were people to take care of him. He's doing fine, but it wasn't an accident we couldn't prevent. And so knowing what to do in the case of that. So just working with one child that's in Scouts recently, and what are those first aid skills that we need to kind of start building and learning about. That could be one aspect of that as well. So as far as resources and options, I just want to share some spaces and things that may be opportunities here within the state of Indiana. This picture here is on a night hike. You can see these wet hands of a teenager here, and we'd gone on a night hike. It was for ages 12 and above, I believe. And later in the evening, we were up a lot later in the month of March than we typically would on a school night, but we chose to go ahead and make that so that we could have that experience with finding amphibians in the outdoors in that space. Great time with my 15-year-old that evening. So also summer camps. There are camps across the state you may have, and even just over the state borders, and adventure camps that we can go to other places as well. But I encourage you to find the camps that are near you. And I teach some students at the college level, master's degree actually, even at Mary Lee Environmental Center sometimes. And I've noticed that one of them, she said part of her ecological identity was going to summer camp at Camp Mac every single summer. And even as a child, my grandma took me there to go swimming, and I remember going to do that and such as well. And while I wasn't a camper there necessarily, I remember going to the space and it being a great place. So just summer camps in general, and many organizations have summer camps that include the outdoors as well. So kind of check and see what's there and in your space to find that as one option. I also want to just kind of to touch base on volunteer work. There are a lot of options for cleanup work. One of my sons was on the front of the paper. He needed to get some service hours. I know school, oftentimes where we live, 8th grade, they have to do civic hours. Another son, he has to do so many volunteer hours to graduate as part of his graduation requirements. So those can include the outdoors and some of the cleanup work, removal of invasive species. As long as you're not using like the chemicals and things, there are opportunities for that. And they can be part of the planning and implementation of that as well. We talked about the Junior and Teen Indiana Master Naturalist Program earlier. We do have a list of many of these on the website. So with this, we'll also share that we do have a resource on the website for getting outside with tweens and teens as well. Indiana DNR, 14 and up, I believe, you can start volunteering. Zionsville Parks is one example of 14 plus, and that links to that as well. Zoos, Fort Wayne Zoo has a Teens for Nature volunteer program, and then Indianapolis Zoo also has a teen volunteer program. So there are opportunities. If this is what children are interested in, we can find opportunities for them to give back and interact in different ways that they may not be able to otherwise. Also just programming in general. This is a small list. I'm sure there are more throughout the state, and if you have some, please send them our way. Mary Lee, Albion, Indiana, they have a conservation leadership school. It's actually really quite affordable, but they spend a week in the summer looking at all those conservation leadership kinds of things and building skills, and as part of the programming that they have there. And then also the White Pines Wilderness School in Indianapolis. They really work on traditional skills. I remember taking a workshop from them as an adult, and you start, it was on fire. You start with making your own fire kit. So building the spindle that you would use to create the friction to make your fire. And so building on some of those traditional skills and with people who are skilled and know how to do it. There are many different kinds of groups and clubs that may be in part of this as well. So like Future Farmers of America, many tweens are kind of thinking about that agricultural spin and how that's working. I've noticed many internships and things kind of popping up even around our area in Elkhart County, where there are programs to learn how to grow things and then get them to the market, etc. Science Olympiad, I know my children have been involved in that, and we're able to study ornithology and rocks and minerals and some of those things. And then Envirothon is another school's kind of sponsored event where they get together and do some problem solving around environmental concerns as well. There are actual school classes and outdoor classrooms or trips. I mentioned a field trip that I went on recently, but then also I know at one point our 8th graders had the opportunity to go on a Boundary Waters trip if they were interested in it. So any kind of trip that school or school adjacent may be going on can be very powerful with that. Elkhart schools, they have a marine biology summer program. You can see some examples of pictures from their program here. As they get credit for high school as part of it, they go for 2 weeks, and they get to go do things locally, but then also go someplace else to travel. In this case, they went to Massachusetts and Maine to compare and contrast some of the things that they're doing. They did whale watching, paddleboarding, kayaking, etc. And I believe that Goshen High School also goes down to the Keys in Florida to go have similar kinds of trips over spring break, I guess you would call it. So just be aware and know that maybe you can be an advocate or someone who sponsors or encourages these field trips and school trips as well. Okay, citizen scientists activities. I've listed a few here. iNaturalist, that's that one where I use the program Seek, but then I can take a picture of that and then document it, and then researchers can see what time of the year, where it was, etc., so that they have additional information about this. People have discovered new plants for an area and or butterflies and things through some of these citizen scientist projects, which is really kind of fascinating. Then this links to a whole thing about options for tweens and teens for doing citizen scientist projects. But that frog watch, I know some teens that love amphibians. And so getting trained as a frog watch citizen scientist and then being able to give some reports back really helps in research. Indiana Dunes has some opportunities for teens and tweens with this as well. So these are all linked and can give you some opportunities with that. I also just kind of wanted to talk about career connections. Teens may be trying things on and even just being exposed to and realizing, hey, people get paid to do some of these things. So like in the field trip yesterday I was helping with, some of the teens were like, oh yeah, I go fishing out here, or whatever. And I'm like, did you know that there are some people that get paid to be out here in the river and understand the fish and what all is going on out here? So this is an example of one of our local city biologists of Elkhart, Dara Deegan, sorry about that. He has internships where he works with older teens working and going and monitoring the quality of water along the St. Joseph River. And so finding those internships that are there. There also the Division of Forestry does programs and mentorships and internships as well. I also just want to kind of mention like more informal mentorships. One lady I know has done wonderful job in creating field trips and such for adults. But she also developed a relationship, a friendship, mentorship, I guess you could say, though she said she learned so much better from this team. But she was interested in birding. This teenager was. They figured things out and, often go in groups and things. But the teenager had good eyes and could see the birds. She might be able to hear them or know more about them. But that teen really grew in his understanding of birding through this mentorship that he had with this person. Sorry about that. Jen, also just special interests. Photography. There are photography contests out there. Birding, Indiana Audubon is one. There's a birding festival up at Indiana Dunes. There's a youth and family day as part of that. I know my children have gotten merit badges as part of that, but then just also been with other birders that were teenagers or youth as part of that. There are also special hunt days for youth, and that can help build skills and things. People that are interested in butterflies and insects, Purdue does a lot of things with that as well. And then just geocaching. That's one way to include technology and that thrill of seeking things and finding things. And this links to some additional opportunities for tweens and teens with geocaching as well. There's also employment opportunities, some of them in agricultural types of things, but then also camp counselors, and then companies that provide outdoor opportunities. I know that our local Edge Adventures in St. Joe County, that they can work in these tree canopy climbing companies. And that's something that we enjoy doing as a family, gives us that adventure, a different perspective in things. But then also there are job opportunities if people like doing that as well. As far as community groups go, there are so many different types of community groups. And sometimes that means as parents, we're getting involved in them as well. But 4-H, a myriad of programs and resources and opportunities around that with forestry, wildlife, and then agricultural kinds of things of many aspects. The Girl Scouts, they have a lot of different opportunities too. I linked to a couple of specific things that they have, the Climate Challenge, and then love the Outdoors Challenge. Those are great opportunities. And even as an adult, I think those would be fun to do. We also have Scouts BSA, a myriad of ways to develop leadership through the outdoors, through camping and developing skills outdoors. Boys and Girls Club are doing things as well. One recently partnered with ULead to do some outdoor adventure leadership with that as well. Then the Junior Indiana Master Naturalist Program, we talked about that earlier, a great volunteer opportunity, but then to also learn and build skills as part of that. The Indiana Young Birders, it's been more active in the past and kind of goes in ebbs and flows, but there's opportunities there. And then also American Heritage Girls. Thank you so much. I hope this gives you some ideas, and then also go ahead and take a look and feel free to click on those on the website. Thanks so much. Have a great day.